What is your position on climate change?
Love that question. Where do I begin? You know, I just read something today that was very disturbing. I've been doing my homework on cap and trade. In fact, 2 years ago, when I was out publicly speaking on different issues, and I made an ill-fated attempt for U.S. Congress 2 years ago, but during that race, one of the first things I said to audiences back then, this is when Obama was running for president, I said, global warming is the fraud of the century. And nobody else was saying that back then. Now you hear Glenn Beck talking about it all the time. Senator Jim Inhofe, somebody I've worked with down in Washington, D.C. in the 90s on many different issues. He's a real hero on this issue. Want to know my beliefs on that? Follow on YouTube Senator James Inhofe from Oklahoma. Phenomenal crusader against the lies of global warming. The bottom line is this whole global warming agenda has been perpetrated by folks at Goldman Sachs, General Electric, Al Gore. I forget the companies he's involved with, but he stands to make over $1 billion on this if it passes. Do you know that? So basically, in my opinion, it's a fraud that's being perpetrated on the American people. Cap and trade is basically a communist-style regulatory regime that, believe me, if this passes, it's going to be, as I referred to earlier, if you think Obamacare is bad, that's like a stomach ache compared to what cap and trade is going to be. So in conclusion, we've got to stop this monstrosity. By the way, the game plan that they're perpetrating on this was put together in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. And one of the masterminds of this is not just Al Gore, but former communist leader Gorbachev. Did you know that? Give you an idea. And basically, these greens are like they're watermelons. They're green on the outside and red on the inside. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
We'll have time to applaud at the end, so thank you. Matt, climate change.
I've told many of you what put it into perspective for me in terms of climate change and global warming is here at the end of last year, I believe it was the G8 summit was occurring overseas, and the president, of course, was there pitching the cap and trade on the worldwide scope to the group of leaders. Here you have the most powerful and influential men and women, the most highly educated, gathered together on a meeting on cap and trade and global warming. As I was driving along the highway, I believe it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the top of the hour, the news story was this, the 1-minute update you always get. Just moments ago, the world's leaders agreed to keep the Earth's temperature from rising no more than 3.4 degrees over the next 20 years. Now we laugh, but it was a real-life news story. And to me, something is revealed in that. Man has become so arrogant that he honestly thinks he controls everything, even the temperature. Ask a young child if daddy can bring out the sunshine tomorrow morning, or if mommy can drop the temperature tomorrow, and they'll giggle and say, no, you can't do that. And yet the most highly educated, powerful, and influential men and women around the globe decided they could. It reveals something very, very wrong with all of us right now. And what is wrong is we're trying to fix things that we simply cannot fix. Our Creator will weigh in and deal with those issues. We're focusing all our efforts and monies on trying to fix problems that we cannot fix, while the problems that we do understand, like spending more money than you have, enacting regulations that smother growth, we refuse to deal with. The ones that require common sense, we don't seem to want to take the time to solve.
Thank you. Jim, climate change.
You know, I'm going to stick to the point of how it affects all of you out there in the audience. You know, clearly, cap and trade legislation, how does it affect you? It will affect you by approximately $1,600 per household. That's an issue. Climate change legislation will affect you personally. I don't care what scientist says. I don't care. It's how it affects you. Our government, again, is getting involved in things they shouldn't get involved in, and they're going to affect your personal life. You know, it will bankrupt the coal industry. 88% of our electricity in Ohio is produced by the coal industry. 40,000 people in here in the state of Ohio work for the coal industry. It will eliminate those jobs. You know, Obama has admitted that it will cause electricity prices to skyrocket. Those are the kind of things that you need to be worried about, and that's the reason I'm running, because I continue to worry about those things. As in the business, I look at how it's going to affect. A business that's breaking even today, if you raise the utility cost by 25%, there's no more dollars for jobs. So how do you bring jobs to Ohio when your utility costs are going to increase by 25%? Ultimately, this is an issue that will affect everyone. It will affect jobs in Ohio. It will affect job creation in Ohio. And again, the other thing I think is important, that I have signed the No Climate Tax Pledge with the Americans for Prosperity, because I believe that any legislation that affects the ability to raise, the ability for job production in this state and the ability for jobs in this district needs to be something we need to be getting away from, not moving toward.
Doyle, climate change.
When I first heard Matt say that President Obama was saying that he would control the weather, I had to laugh. But it's true. You can't believe that any person can control the weather. The problem with this cap and trade business, Greenland was a very good place to raise cattle and live when Leif Erikson came to Greenland. Now it's coming back to the same situation. This global warming is a cycle, and it's part of the weather circuit, climate change. And we've had it before, and we'll have it again. It's not done by man, and for us to try, now, I'll say this, there's nothing wrong with finding ways to do things more ecologically, but they should be done by the private companies when they have the funds and not be mandated by the government.
Thank you.